You can go ahead and get the meeting started.
Okay, very good. Well, we'll start today's meeting. This is the February 6th meeting of the Livermore-Amador Valley Transportation Authority. We'll start with roll call, please.
Yes, Director Branning is currently absent. Director Brown?
Here.
Vice Chair Hernandez is currently absent. Director Josie?
Present.
Director Kick? Director Kick?
Here.
Testa?
Here.
Chair Halbert?
Present.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Great. Item 3 is meeting is open to the public. Members of the audience may address the Board of Directors on any matter within the general subject matter jurisdiction of the Livermore-Amador Valley Transportation Authority Board of Directors. Do we have any public speakers?
Currently, we have one attendee. They don't have their hand raised, and I did not receive any public comment via email.
Very good. With that, we'll close public comment item 3 and move to item 4, January Tri-Valley Accessible Advisory Committee minutes.
I am promoting Herb right now. Bear with me for just a minute. Herb, can you go ahead?
It's called The Wonderful World of Zoom. I was punching buttons and it didn't want to do its thing. But otherwise, hi everyone. Hope your holidays or New Year's is starting out very positive so far this year, the past month. I'm here today to give the January 4th, 2023 Accessibility Advisory Committee report. As I gave a report myself before, the first thing is I notified the committee regarding that I was appointed to the Caltrans Interagency Transportation Equity Committee, which we are having our first meeting in March. I just got the notification of it, so it's confirmed. And then I invited Madam Executive Director, and she gave herself, although not that most of us knew her already, but she gave a nice little introduction report to the newer members that have never seen her before and met her yet. So I gave her a little chance, and she's invited to attend just like all the rest of you are during the period of the meetings. And the next one was the current update on the Pleasanton Dial Ride service transfer that was worked on over the last 5 years, I guess, 7 years of transitioning. So we got the latest report on how it was already completely turned over, effective January 1st. And then we had one service concern regarding a First and Neal bus stop over in Pleasanton that Christy is going to possibly look into. It's a stop over there, the H stop that goes towards the top of towards Livermore and then turns around. And that's the report. Any questions?
Any questions of Herb? Mayor Brown, Commissioner Brown,
Keep track
Carla
of it all.
Brown.
I know, depending on which meeting you're in. I'm confused about the bus stop because on Tuesday's city council meeting tomorrow, we're looking at that park between Lions Wayside, which is where we do concert in the park. There's a stop there. Is that the one? It's at Neal first.
It's the one on the opposite side of Deluki, which is the 8 bus stop. If Madam Madam Chair, I was going to say, if Mr. Chair would allow me to give a little detail, is the explanation is that stop is the 8th stop on First Street that goes towards Livermore, the eastbound for the 8, and that one is on grass. And the member seat to it has made a very consistent, continued concern of several things. One is the pad. The pad that's located there is too small and in size. It's barely wide enough for a walker and to get on. And we've attempted to have the pad widened to a wider space, taken more of the grass and turned it into concrete, and possibly have a bench installed, since it is a very active intersection for the concert, the park, and people coming and going. And then the other thing has to do with a driver's training procedure where the drivers are dropping off the passengers. The front door is being put into the lawn. So
Christy, can you work with, sorry, I understand.
Yes.
Christy, would you have one of your staff members, executive director, one of your staff members look into this, because that is the stop also for our farmers market. It's a busy part and an easy drop for downtown. And if we can shift it one way or another in order to accommodate our ADA and other riders, it sure would be nice if that's possible.
Absolutely. And just to clarify, the stop that Herb is mentioning is not on Neal. It is on First Street in front of someone's house. And so, yes, there is a very narrow utility cover that is being used, I believe, for a pad. And when there are cars parked on First Street, the bus isn't able to align the door with that pad. And so then they have to alight passengers in the grass. So we have been looking into it. I'm looking at it right now on my map, but
yeah,
happy
if we
to
can
continue. Yeah.
slip it a little closer the other direction. I know there's a small apartment complex there that might have something. Anyway, if you could look into it, I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you need help with staff, let me know. Thank you. Thanks, Herb.
All right, any other questions or comments?
I don't see any, Herb. You did a great job. Thank you.
Oh, and the latest on the parking garage has been kind of stalled because of Mother Nature currently, as I see it every day. So thank you.
Oh, thanks for the update, Herb. Okay, item 5 is the consent calendar. Items generally approved without much discussion unless somebody would like to pull an item. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved, Josie.
Is there a second?
Hernandez will second.
Moved by Josie, seconded by Hernandez. Any public comment on the consent calendar?
I did not receive any via email and there's no hands raised.
Roll call, please.
Director Branning is absent. Director Brown,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hernandez,
Aye.
Director Josie,
Aye.
Director Kick,
Aye.
Director Testa,
Aye.
Chair Halbert.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Very good. Item 6 is the 2023 legislative program. This item is agendized with the recommendation that the Finance Administration Committee recommends the Board of Directors approve Resolution 06-2023 affirming LAVTA's 2023 legislative program. This item will be presented to us by Jennifer Yeamans, and we will take it away, Jennifer.
Thank you. As you just said, this item is to approve the agency's 2023 legislative program, which is summarized in my staff report and included as attachment 2. This was presented at the January 24th Finance and Administration Committee, where the committee provided their input and had a number of interesting questions and comments, especially I thought on learnings from the U.S. Conference of Mayors meeting in Washington, D.C. that I understand Director Hernandez attended, and maybe others did too, as well as the transit funding picture, which is a big feature of this year's potential legislative landscape, especially at the state level. The committee recommended adoption of the program provided in attachment 2, which highlights changes from last year's program in red markup. My staff report summarizes the current legislative landscape as we currently understand it. As you know, there's a new legislature in Sacramento and a new Congress in Washington, D.C., and we're expecting to see more and more bills being introduced in the coming weeks. It's been a little bit slow going so far, but we expect that to ramp up. Attachment 3 has the state legislative calendar for this year, so you can see the deadline to introduce new bills up in Sacramento will be February 17th. I think I'll say at a high level, the program gives LAVTA, both the board and the staff, the basic guidance on key issues to support, oppose, monitor, or seek amendments to that might arise over the course of the coming year. It's not really meant to be an exhaustive list, but it speaks to where we understand the legislative agenda may be headed this year at various levels. We definitely monitor for proposals that might have an outsized impact on LAVTA and our mission, but we also rely heavily on our industry partners to handle a lot of the heavy lifting in Sacramento and Washington when the need arises. So much like cities and counties have leagues of cities or the State Association of Counties, we have the California Transit Association and CalAct, both of which we are members of, keeping tabs on activities in Sacramento, as well as the American Public Transit Association, or LAVTA, in Washington. So with that said, given the agency's current goals and needs, the biggest issues we're watching for this year are matters related to stabilizing transit operating funding as we return to some kind of post-COVID new normal, whether that is at the state level, the federal level, or both, as well as leveraging initiatives to support our infrastructure needs, especially the facilities we need to support our transition to a 100% zero emission fleet in the future. If you approve the program today, staff will bring information and potential action on future bills of interest as appropriate to the board via the Finance and Administration Committee going forward. So with that, I will conclude my report and be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions of Ms. Yeamans on the legislative report? Commissioner Brown.
Yes. Jennifer, it is wonderful to see you back at the Board of Directors again. So wonderful to see you. Just a question. I too was back at the DC Conference of Mayors, and in addition to the conference, we met with many of our federal legislators and congressmen, and they told us that there is a facility. First of all, does anybody from LAVTA go to Washington, D.C. to request funds, especially the topic of hydrogen is very commonly discussed in DC, how to have hydrogen creation as well as who's going to fund it. And then second question, an add-on, is they said there are representatives for our region in San Francisco that also influence funding for federal funding. And I wondered if you're in contact with that individual as well.
So I don't want to speak for our executive director, but I do think she has plans to join up with our partners at LAVTA and travel to DC in March to talk with our legislators directly. As you may be aware, redistricting happened on the basis of the 2020 census. So LAVTA now actually has 2 members of Congress in our service area, Eric Swalwell representing Livermore, Pleasanton, and parts of Dublin. I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads here. And then Congressman Mark DeSaulnier is now representing that part of Dublin as well. So I think we will see how it goes with next year's appropriations. I think we're getting the committee assignments done and we're following all that process to understand who's going to be influencing what along the way. We've been very fortunate that I think all of our members, whether it's our 2 senators plus our member of the House of Representatives, have generally been supportive of at least regular appropriations of the funds we need from the federal government. And I think that's now going to carry forward to implementation of the bipartisan infrastructure law, especially in the Federal Transit Administration's discretionary grant making, which we will have there are calls for projects out now that we will be applying for. So it's all very much on the radar. And yeah, there's still some getting organized happening in Washington, D.C. So we're kind of letting people catch their breath, and then we will, I think Christy specifically will be knocking on their door.
That is absolutely correct. I will be in DC March 12th through 14th and looking to go to Sacramento for the CTA Legislative Conference mid-May. And I'm looking to partner with our neighbors to the North County Connection and do joint visits with our federal delegation.
Oh, excellent. And then any discussion on how to support Gillig, since that is our most likely our bus manufacturer? And so in terms of creating hydrogen bus service.
If I could on that one, I know that Representative Swalwell is a member of the Congressional Hydrogen Caucus, whatever that means. So I think it will be worth finding out what that group has got their eyes set on this year, but certainly making sure that they are aware of what is going on with our agency and our plans. And I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Chris.
I'll just add, I am working on setting up a meeting with Gillig in the very near future to better understand their readiness for this technology, so we can potentially partner with them on an upcoming discretionary grant.
And even if we were to have hydrogen creation site somewhere in the Tri-Valley, I know there's discussion about having it in Tracy, but for our buses and LAVTA here would be helpful. Okay, wonderful. You're on it, and thank you.
Any other questions or comments about the legislative agenda? I note that we're being joined by Commissioner Branning.
Yeah. And
care to weigh in or ask questions about the item 6, 2023 legislative program?
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I'm running a little bit late today. So I actually sent Christy a lot of feedback on the legislative platform. I think most of it, talking to Christy and Jennifer, is stuff we can incorporate either as just general feedback. I'll clean it up, and if you want to include it in the notes for people for the future to see what I said. But most of it would be for is fine to put in for the next cycle. There's just a few things I wanted to highlight that I think should be added or clarified. One, I would like to talk more with the board. I don't think this is important to put in right now, but there's a couple of times it mentions advocating for Valley Link, and I think we should clarify Valley Link as a separate body. I'm 100% for Valley Link, but really from LAVTA's legislative side, advocating for the connections, the partnerships with Valley Link, and really how we work with them. So in future cycles, kind of cleaning up that language. I would like to see, particularly under the state, a couple of additions if the board would approve this. One, I would like us to add an item that would mention supporting legislation around paratransit, any legislation to support and expand access to paratransit. I noticed that was missing from our legislative list. And potentially something to include making sure that we support legislation that will ensure proper funding for transit with TOD developments, to make sure that we have the ability when a transit-oriented development goes in to actually provide the services required for those. The rest of my suggestions were some small kind of wording changes, clarifications, things along those lines. One thing I did want clarified, and I think it's worth clarifying possibly in the language, is under the regional section, the first item, that when we talk about a transit manager, that we support the concept of a transit manager and making sure there is a way of improving system transfers and overall system usage. And I think the rest I will keep to written notes so that this isn't the 18 or so items I sent along to staff. But those were the main things.
Is that clear enough direction for Jennifer and Christy? Do we need to add anything before we make a motion to approve this?
Jennifer, do you have thoughts there?
Well, I guess the chair's question is whether I guess I don't know if there would be a separate motion to add language, or if that is in itself enough direction with what is in there now.
So let me try to clarify a little bit. A ledge program often says we're going to support or oppose or support if amended or seek amendments bill by bill often, right? So we're not at that point yet, I guess, because they don't have named bills. So now we're saying we would support these kinds of bills. And what I think I heard say, and I see Jean with her hand up, I'll get you in just a second. I think I'm hearing that we would like to Commissioner Branning would like to add a couple of sort of narrowly focused but specific items. So could we have him just say what those are and be very clear that we would approve this with the amendment that we would also support items like paratransit and such? So a sentence or two that Evan might be able to think about as he makes the motion, assuming he does after Jean Josie asks her questions or makes a comment. So let's think about what that might be. Jennifer, if you want to help him think about what that sentence or two might be, so that it's clear, crisp, and easy, and noting that we'll take additional comments on the next cycle when we get to that. For now, though, Commissioner Josie, question or comment?
Comment on what Director Branning had to say. I'm actually in disagreement with you about the LAVTA, I'm sorry, the Valley Link piece. I think the way that we have it written now is quite appropriate for us to say that we support legislation in a regional way that actually to implement Valley Link, not just to partner with Valley Link once it's implemented. I think that's appropriate for this agency, because if Valley Link is implemented, that will drive ridership, additional ridership for LAVTA. And I think it's perfectly appropriate for us to advocate for that. Additional people coming in on rail to the Tri-Valley area will add ridership to LAVTA from the BART station for those people that are offloading there and being able to come in without cars. And so for that reason, I would advocate for leaving the language the way it is, instead of tweaking the language on what legislation we would support or what priorities we would support relative to Valley Link. I agree with you about the paratransit for sure.
So why don't we make a quick motion, Evan, if you would want to limit the scope of things that we have general consensus on, would that be okay?
Yeah, sounds great. Just to clarify to Jean's comment, I brought it up as part of this for a future conversation to kind of come to narrow how we would like to approach our partnership with Valley Link. I think that the platform is a little overly broad on it right now. Sorry if I was unclear on that, but I do think Valley Link is one of the most important projects in the region. So my suggestion for a motion would be to approve the legislative platform with the addition of language around supporting paratransit and funding for transit with in transit-oriented developments.
Great. Is that clear enough direction to make a motion? Michael, Christy, Jennifer? You're on mute, Mike.
I think we can have Jennifer just draft another sentence that says that. You know, those two concepts I think are enough.
All right, moved by Commissioner Branning, seconded by Josie.
Yep.
Roll call.
Director Branning.
Aye.
Director Brown.
Yes, thank you. And I just want to comment, I appreciate the collaborative nature of coming to the motion. I agree.
Vice Chair Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Josie.
Aye.
Director Kick.
Aye.
Director Testa.
Aye.
Chair Howard.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Very good. Thank you very much. And again, I'll echo comments. Great to see you on Zoom, Jennifer, Miss Yeamans. Item 7, Brown Act remote meeting guidance. This is no specific action required. This is just a board meeting update. Mr. Connerin, the floor is yours.
Sure, I'm happy to take this. I imagine that many of you have already heard about this, perhaps on your other boards on which you sit. As you know, since COVID hit, we've been able to meet remotely, protecting our health and welfare. And more recently, thanks to AB 361, been able to use Zoom and other platforms for meetings like this. The governor made it clear several months ago that as of February 28th of this year, he was going to terminate the state of emergency, which is an essential requirement under AB 361 to continue to have remote meetings of this type. So this board's next meeting will be in person. We also provided you some guidance. It's really pretty simple. I mean, there's a lot of language, but just breaking it down. There was a second bill approved, which is AB 2449. I don't think it's really very helpful. I mean, it really only applies in some really specialized circumstances that I know all legislation is written by a committee, but this one really shows that. We're basically, and for those of you who've been in public office for a while, we're basically returning to the old Brown Act teleconferencing rules. If you want to participate remotely, you can do it by phone or by Zoom. The only real requirement that's of concern is that you need to do it from a public area in which other members of the public can attend, and that the location of that needs to be put on the agenda. My recommendation would be that we meet in person, and if there are people that either wish to participate remotely via teleconference, basically the old rule, we will work with you on that. If you fit into one of the unique categories in the new legislation, and we'll give you some guidance on what those are, we'll work with you on that. But there's nothing really for this board to do other than plan to be in person in March. And hopefully we don't have any upticks in COVID and I need to go back. But I assume if that happens, the governor will issue another emergency order and we will be able to go back at least until AB 361 goes out of effect at the end of the year. Anyway, be happy to answer any questions. I don't want to belabor this because I think many of you have heard it already. But in case you do have questions, I'm happy to answer.
Indeed, we've heard this from numerous boards. Let's go to quick comments, though. I see the first hand raised, Commissioner Josie, and anyone else want to chime in, feel free to raise your hand.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just had a quick question. We do have the capability to be hybrid.
Technically, yes. Capability meaning legally, can someone no, maybe
No, I mean, do we have the technological capability from LAVTA to have our meetings be hybrid so that those who want to meet in person can, and those for whom, particularly those of us who don't live in Livermore or work in Livermore, have the ability to continue to be remote? Do we have the ability to do that? Because under the old Brown Act, as long as we are within the jurisdiction, we can do that as long as we're consistent for staff's sake, so that they don't have to keep changing every month, change the agenda for where we're going to be, and that we post that where we're going to be. If we were all to Zoom from our own offices in our own cities, for example, we could continue to be meeting remotely if that were the choice of the majority of the board, for example, and those who wanted to come in could come into LAVTA. Would that be a possibility? Do we have the capability to do that?
I think from an IT perspective, we do. We may need to take a fresh look at our camera, but I believe we do. And she's been here longer than I have the second time around. So Tamara, do you have any thoughts on our IT capability?
We'll need to do a little bit of upgrading, but nothing complicated, nothing too expensive, just probably a better camera.
Better camera.
I've had meetings in the conference room and it's a little hard to see individuals, but I'm sure our IT guy, Dave, could get it figured out within like a day.
And one question I have, if it's appropriate, is what about the public attending the meeting? Would they need to attend in person is another item for discussion, I think.
That was the next question I was going to ask, because I mean, I think that certainly particularly for our TAC members that want to be able to watch our meetings, and I mean, they can certainly always watch anyway, because we stream on YouTube, but to be able to participate or ask questions, they may not always want to be able to have to come in to be able to participate. And I sure would like to be able to make sure that we don't lose capability when we go back to in person for the people who have enjoyed being able to comment publicly without driving to Livermore from around the region. Thank you. That's it for my comment.
Any other questions or comments? I would like to just summarize and say, do we have any committee meetings between now and the end of February? Can we do a dry run where we test the ability to be in person? So I would recommend staff certainly be there. If any directors would like to be there, feel free to do so. We don't have to agendize ourselves in other offices because we'll test remote capabilities without that, knowing that in the future we will. But for a test dry run, if staff could be in person and anyone that wants to be can be in person, we'll otherwise conduct that meeting as a hybrid meeting and see how it goes. But I'm going to then foresee that, as Chair Josie, Commissioner Josie said, in the future, as long as we provide the address of our home office, which is accessible to the public, that we could choose to do so remotely, letting the public participate remotely and allowing those who would like to come in person to do so. I see one hand raised from the audience. That's Herb. I'll go to public comment now on this item and call on Herb to chime in. You're on mute, Herb. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. I was sitting there listening to this, and I can answer about 2 or 3 people, because just from history of technical issues, there are members of the TAC that have a little bit of technical glitch sometimes during the meetings. And then the location would have to do with the bus too. Oh.
Very good, Herb. Yep.
So
do you have any other comments?
That would be the main issue, is because there's no bus stop at the main building anymore, because the 12 was eliminated, and that was the other issue we had with TAC members. That's it.
They could still participate remotely, and if we have technical issues, we'll have to get around that, I guess. But without having a bus stop, it would be difficult. If anybody wanted to, though, they could arrange paratransit, I think, right? Okay. Very good. So this is not an action item, but I think we're all on the same page, unless anybody else has anything else to add. Okay.
Just one comment, and that it's just, I'm perfectly supportive of having other remote locations. It's just that the technical, I don't think staff is going to be able to staff those. I guess by this point, we're all pretty much Zoom able. So just with that caveat that the the technical aspect of participating. Again, it's a little easy to get confused with that new law and all of the requirements there. You don't need to identify every other adult in the room and all that. I mean, it's just a simple, same old teleconference rules. And so we can do that. And I think as long as you feel comfortable with, zooming from your location, I think we'll be fine.
Good. I saw Brittany with her hand up. Did you have another question or did you get it answered?
I don't know if it's now or I have to bring it up later. Michael, give me some guidance there. I am the LAVTA representative for Valley Link. And with these rules, getting me out to Tracy without childcare is going to be a little bit difficult. So I'm wondering if there needs to be a matters initiated to maybe have a different LAVTA representative for Valley Link, since as I'm assuming all of our boards are going to go like this, and I don't want to be the person that's constantly unable to make it out there.
Sure. I believe Valley Link is going to be looking at a similar arrangement. I think though with a staff location, so maybe one on each side of the hill. But that may not be suitable work for you in terms of arriving in person, even if it's in the Tri-Valley rather than for the occasional meetings that are in San Joaquin. You could participate by teleconference if you are in a public location. However, childcare does not always facilitate that. So I would understand that. Not something we can do at this meeting, but perhaps we should talk afterwards. And I know I know Valley Link's going to discuss this on Wednesday. Probably have a little more of an idea of how they're going to handle that. So why don't we do that?
Okay, I'll check in later. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Valley Link is separate. They'll make their own decisions. But for our board, Brittany, do you have concerns about how we're proceeding?
No, because you're in Livermore and I'm in Livermore.
Yes.
But yeah.
Okay. Got it. Very good. Commissioner Josie.
Thank you. I just had one more comment, and that was to, for the sake of staff, for all of us, that if we want to decide we're going to participate remotely month after month to try to keep our locations consistent, so that staff isn't trying to chase us down, figure out where we're going to be. Also that we have to post our location at the location as well as on the agenda, so that, we're being mindful of the fact that we need to comply with all of the existing Brown Act rules.
Right. And sadly, that 72-hour posting for regular meetings, and sadly, doing the Zoom meeting from your car, I think we've reached the end of that. So.
Commissioner Brown.
Chair, the way I understood Brittany's comments is she is an appointee from our board to sit on the Valley Link board. So she's a LAVTA appointee. Is that correct, Ms. Kicks?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just to be clear.
I'll do a matters initiated to maybe have a discussion to appoint somebody else.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, just want to be sure it's
I would
clear.
just say if it turns out on Wednesday that Valley Link decides to do a meeting location in Livermore, perhaps that would work for you. But we can see. That's what I'm
Sure.
saying.
We'll talk after Wednesday then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Okay, it's not an action item, just a discussion item. We'll move on to item 8, which is the cancellation of phase 2 of 2018 adopted fare increase. This is an item that Tony will be presenting. It's a recommendation to permanently cancel previously approved fare increases because we're just not going to implement them anytime soon. And I'll let him explain in more detail. This cleans up our administrative record, our formal things on the docket, so to speak. Tony, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I think you did a really good job of just explaining it all. So if there's any questions, actually, in October of 2018, the board of directors adopted some fare policy changes that took effect on January 1st of 2019. Only 2 of you were on the board back in 2018, Mayor Brown and Supervisor Halbert. You are the 2 holdovers from that. And you may remember that during that process, we received some input from our Accessible Advisory Committee suggesting that the increases to the senior disabled monthly pass and the cash fare on Dial-A-Ride were kind of large and might be a difficult financial situation for those folks. So the recommendation was to divide that into two parts. First part would take place in January of 2019, and then like half of the increase, and the second half would happen in January of 2021. Well, then March of 2020 happened, and the world changed, and as a result, we postponed the implementation of phase 2 in 2021. We postponed it again in 2022. And so Chair Halbert is right. What we're requesting that the board do is just take action to permanently cancel those two previous recommendations and go back and look at those again as part of the next comprehensive fare analysis that we do for LAVTA, and also in recognition of the fact that MTC currently has a region-wide fare integration study going on right now that may have impacts on fare policies. So our recommendation is to just not implement those two changes. Now, the changes that were recommended would have taken the Dial-A-Ride fare from $3.75 per ride to $4, and it would have taken the monthly pass from $22 to $25 per month. To give you an idea of the order of magnitude financially, we carry about 2,000 people a month on Dial-A-Ride, so a quarter each, that's $500. And for the monthly passes, we sell somewhere between 25 and 40 of those a month. So again, not a huge amount of money on either one of those. And we just think it'd be better to put that off rather than implement two fare items that impact only seniors and the disabled.
Okay, any questions of Tony? Otherwise, a motion to be made? Seeing no hands raised, somebody want to make a motion?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to delay that until we get further information.
I'll second that.
Any clarifying questions, Mayor, Commissioner Brown, then Branning?
Thank you. May I ask a question? Tony, you said there's about 22,000 riders and you're talking about 25 cents. So I'm just trying to do simple math. So that's only $500. It just seems like there's a zero missing.
2,000 paratransit riders per
Oh,
month.
2,000. There's my zero because I'm looking at eliminating
the decimal
and
point.
day pass for 22,000. Okay. All right. I wrote it down wrong. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the information.
Mr. Chair, I think the recommendation is that we cancel the previously adopted increases, right? We'll come back. Staff's going to bring them back in appropriate time, but for now, we're canceling what the previously. Just make sure that's good.
All right, Commissioner Branning?
That covers my comment I was going to say. I believe the recommendation was just to cancel, and then it could come back or not at a future date. So I'd propose an amendment, or I don't know, replacing
Hernandez and Testa, is that good for you?
Yeah, I would want it to come back, Michael.
When the time is right and the staff is ready to recommend an increase, it would come back. But for now, it's canceled.
Thanks.
Clear, made and seconded. Roll call.
Director Branning,
Aye.
Dr. Brown,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hernandez,
Aye.
Dr. Josie,
Aye.
Dr. Kick,
Aye.
Dr. Testa,
Aye.
Chair Halbert.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Very good. The next item is the Executive Director's report, noting that after this, we're going to adjourn to closed session. So get that next link ready. Executive Director's report.
Thank you, Chair Halbert. Good afternoon, board members. This is your February Executive Director's Report. We'll start it off with our report on ridership. We are still up year over year with our ridership. However, we did see a decline in January, largely due to Mother Nature giving us so much precipitation. So we were down about 55% of pre-COVID average weekday ridership in January 2020. And our weekend ridership is still looking strong. Turning to funding, which is really, really important right now. BART has made the 4 small East Bay operators aware of their desire to cut some BART feeder bus funding. Currently, there is about $7 million of BART feeder bus money that is distributed to the 4 small East Bay operators. This is us, County Connection, WestCat, and Tri-Delta Transit. We receive approximately $750,000 to $800,000 of this money. We had a meeting today with BART staff and MTC at 2 p.m. and it was a productive meeting. BART is looking for a total reduction of $4 million over this fiscal year and next fiscal year's funding. So we are putting our heads together to understand what impact that may have. We think we can absorb a minor reduction in our funding without a detrimental effect on service. The one-seat ride paratransit pilot, we will be extending that for 1 more year. This has been a successful pilot between, again, the 4 East Bay operators, allowing our paratransit customers a one-seat ride throughout our 4 collective service areas without having to transfer or pay 2 fares. So that's great. As you know, we have supported ACE Rail with some emergency bus bridge resources earlier in January due to a mudslide in Niles Canyon. Our operations team, led by our new general manager, Regina Flores, received the request from ACE very early in the morning and really did what she could to move heaven and earth and mobilize as many resources as we could. Amidst a lot of changing information, and I think a lot of changing, as things like this happen, the situation changes. So we did what we could to move, I think, a couple hundred people back either to San Jose or Stockton. And Regina has joined us. Maybe we can promote her to a panelist at the end of my executive director's report so you can meet her. We have some upcoming grant opportunities. This is in line with the great LEDGE program that Jennifer presented to you. So we are submitting for the Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program, TIRCIP, Cycle 6, to seek more funding to construct Atlantis so that we can then procure, fuel, and maintain our future hydrogen fleet. We are also looking at the Federal Transit Administration's discretionary bus and bus facilities program and low and no emissions vehicle program. Those notices of funding opportunities were just released, so we are going to be looking at submitting grants there. MTC is moving ahead with seeking approval on the business case and framework for a regional network manager. MTC presented the business case to their executive committee in mid-January and to their commission as an information item at the end of January. And they received general support for the concept. What MTC still needs to figure out is how to pay for this network manager. They are anticipating a budget of $2 million to stand this up, and we'll be looking to do some cost sharing with transit operators. And once we have that proposal, I will bring it back to this board. We are on track to bring you a comprehensive SAV project update to the Projects and Services Committee here in a few weeks, your February meeting, and to the March board meeting for input and discussion. And lastly, I wanted to give you an update on some procurements that we're looking at for the next 30 days. We will be initiating improvements at our transit center, landscaping, looking to beef up our security here at our operations and admin building. And I will be looking to procure some executive coaching services. And I lied, I have a few more things. We are progressing on the hiring of our director of operations. We had first round interviews last week and have some great candidates. And we are doing second interviews for the customer service rep. And with that, I will stop talking and I can take any of your questions.
Are there any questions of the executive director's report? Very comprehensive, great job. Keep up the good work. We will adjourn to closed session. check your emails. You have one with the closed session link.
Are you waiting for me?
Wait for David.
Okay.
While we're waiting, can I ask if anyone knows why my background is backwards? Is there something I can do differently?
It's
I've
not,
tried everything.
Looks good.
Yeah,
it
it
only
looks
looks
fine.
backwards to you. It looks good to the rest of us.
Yeah, you have a choice in your screen to say reverse or forward. You must have checked reverse at some time.
Okay, so it looks right to everyone else? Oh, yay. Okay, thank you. I feel
You
much
see
better.
they're thinking, I'm backwards.
Is
I
mine
know.
backwards?
It
Is
looks
mine
really
backwards?
odd to me because it's all, yeah, okay.
I think actually Evans
know.
is the one that's backwards. His books are opposite.
I tried combing my hair using the camera and it was horrible.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We're going to reconvene from closed session. To confirm, can we have a roll call to confirm attendance and quorum?
Yes. Director Branning?
Here.
Director Brown?
Here,
Vice Chair Hernandez?
Here.
Director Josie?
Here.
Director Kick?
Here.
Director Testa?
Here,
Chair Hubbard?
Here,
We
do
still have
we
a-
have any reportable action out of closed session?
Mr. Chair, we do not. The board met in closed session, to discuss the public employment evaluation of the executive director. There were no reportable actions there.
Very good, thank you. Item 13 is matters initiated by board directors. Anybody wishing to initiate a matter for future discussion? Seeing none, I'll note that our next meeting date is scheduled for March 6, 2023. With that, we are adjourned. For the record, it was right on time with my over/under.
You're very good. You're very, very good.